Good. So we're off. We're started now. So a very warm welcome to you all. My name is Shamash Alidina, and this is the Managing Anxiety Summit. And so I'm starting off the day. I'm kicking off with a bit of an introduction to all the talks that you can expect today, and a little bit about the speakers, so you know what to look out for, which might be particularly relevant for you. And then I'm going to give you a little short talk on my thing that I'm really passionate about, which is about acceptance and mindfulness and presence and the transcendent self or the spiritual self, and committing to action and taking action based on values, which altogether as a package is called ACT, or Acceptance and Commitment Training. So I'll be talking about that approach today. And then let me go through the other speakers. So just to give you a bit of an idea for the shape of the day, we're going to leave this live stream on all day, so you're able to kind of log in and out in any time. And I won't be offended if you have to go and come. That's absolutely fine. We'll have a speaker every hour, and then between one speaker and the next, there'll be a little break, 10-15 minutes, depending on how long the interview is. So I want to encourage you to make sure this is the day for you. So you make it into a wonderful easing your anxieties day if you can, as best you can. And so looking after yourself. So listening to the talks in a way, in a style that feels right for you. You can listen to this on your phone or on your computer. And I encourage you to maybe turn off other media for a while, see if you can switch off your text messaging and WhatsApp and all that stuff. If you can, even if for a few hours or even just for one talk, and you can have a little bit of a break between one speaker and the next. So that could be good. And also remember, in the breaks that we have, if you are kind of dedicated to being in these sessions, in the breaks that we have, make sure you look after yourself in a kind way. Maybe one of those breaks you can go for a walk if you're allowed to in your country, and you can also, even if you can't go for a walk outside, go for a walk inside, or calling a friend, or getting a little bit of sunshine in your face, whether it's outside or through the window, or any kind of light may be nice for you. So you're just balancing being on the computer and listening to these talks. So just looking after yourself. Let's see if we can cultivate the sense of compassion and kindness and warmth to ourselves, so we're embodying what we want to learn about and share today as well. So that's the first thing. The other thing is that we'll be guiding some different mindful exercises. And so if you can engage and practice them, that would be really lovely. It's not for everyone. Some people don't like mindful or meditation exercises too much, or they don't find it that soothing. But I'd encourage you to have a go. And if you feel for whatever reason it's not for you, then that's fine. You can leave it and try something that may work for you. But yeah, do feel free to have a go, and I'm going to be sharing them. And we're very fortunate we have these other 6 teachers will be sharing their kind of different approaches, and they have some short guided exercises. So do try them out if you can. And I think that's it in terms of the introduction for the day. The other thing, some of you have been asking about the recordings, and we'll be sending them to you probably early next week, so you can get them. And this is also being live streamed on Facebook as well, facebook.com/ my name, Shamash Alidina. So if something goes wrong and you can't get into the webinar, you can have a look and watch it there, and the recordings are there too, so you don't have to worry about that. Good. So let's start by talking. I'm going to kind of start my little talk now, which is about ACT. So a nice way to kind of think about this is, I want you to start with a little visualization. So I want you to begin, if you're willing to, by imagining a situation or a scenario. So you're going back to your past where you were met with a difficult challenge and you were not able to rise up to that challenge so well. It was a difficult challenge for you. It was an overwhelming challenge. You were overcome by it. It was tough, and you met this adversity and you didn't meet it as well as you could have. So I just want you to take a few moments about reflecting about that moment. What was that moment like? And don't worry, we're going to be doing the opposite as well, but let's start by this. So I'm thinking back to my personal experience when I felt overwhelmed. It was with anxiety and worry about a situation. What was it for you? And if you had to embody how you met that challenge in the one that you got overwhelmed, what would your bodily posture be like? And I'm going to show you what my bodily posture would look like if I could embody it in a physical way. So I would be kind of curled up like this, and my head looking downwards, holding my shoulders together, protecting my body, and kind of looking downwards. So if you're willing to do so, I encourage you to do the same. See if you can create a bodily posture that represents when you meet a challenge or an adversity and you felt overwhelmed by that, you felt overcome by that. Okay, so that's the first part of the experiment. Hopefully you've had a little go at that, and if not, then maybe imagining it. But if you can do it physically, any kind of physical actions or movements, you're more likely to remember it as well. So this is not just a talk, but a kind of a training as well. Okay, now I want you to think back to another situation where you are met with a challenge, a difficulty, and you actually did really well. You really kind of lived up to it. You rose to that challenge and you met that challenge in a successful way, in a way that you feel proud of. And you thought, wow, that was difficult, man, but I achieved something there. That was impressive. I'm proud of myself about how I managed that. And see if you can cast your mind back. It could be a small thing or a huge thing. It could be something when you were younger or a child, or it could be more recently. You may have to go back to when you were really young, whenever it was for you. But when I think about that time, and that time, there was anxiety there, it was a challenge. But if I had to do that for myself, my bodily posture would be like this. If I had to stand up, I could do it standing up. Oh. Okay, you can't see it. Can't get that far enough. But I'd be standing upright. My hands would be kind of open like this. My chest would be open. I'd be smiling. My eyes are looking forward. And I was just very excited, actually, because there was some anxiety there. Oops. But there was also excitement there too. Nope, I got a bit too excited there myself. And the interesting thing is, the folks that research ACT have actually have asked that very question, and they've asked different cultures all around the world. So they asked different cultures in different places, different countries, show your body posture when you felt overwhelmed, when you felt overwhelmed with a difficulty or a challenge, you didn't meet it in a way that you're proud of, and then show your body posture when you felt that you rose up to the challenge, you stood up and you were able to handle that difficulty or challenge. And it almost always is the same. With the first posture, the body is closed, the head is kind of down or looking down or not present quite often, and there isn't any sense of taking any action. There's a sense of resistance, of overwhelm, of going into a protection mode. And when people are encouraged to embody that sense of posture that embodies meeting a challenge and talking about a moment that they're proud of, that they met in a successful way, people say that, there may have been lots of anxieties there or stress there or challenge there, but their posture was open. There's a sense of being open. Their arms are by their side, so physical body was open. Their eyes are usually quite are open and present rather than absent. So rather than being closed, open, rather than being out of the moment, they're present in the moment. And there's the ability to take action because their body is open too. And the incredibly amazing thing is that these body postures that people embody when they show meeting a challenge in a way that they felt was successful compared to being unsuccessful, they were very, very different. I think, one second, I think someone's hand's been raised. There you go. So one of them was being closed and one's being open. So they kind of vary those two. Now, when they did a lot of research on ACT, now ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Training, is a whole bunch of research that started from actually a guy called Professor Stephen Hayes, who I would say essentially had a bit of a spiritual experience. Actually, he was overwhelmed with anxiety. The anxiety was very, very strong, to the point that he was on the floor and he just didn't know what else to do. He'd woken up in a panic attack. And in that moment, he had an amazing insight. And the insight was that he is not his thoughts. He's not his mind. There's a part of him that is the observer, there's a part of him that's the witness of this experience. And as soon as that happened, after years, several years of being overwhelmed with panic and anxiety, that was the turning point. And he went from being overwhelmed with anxiety and being like this and trying all sorts of different ways to get rid of that anxiety, including relaxation techniques, and absolutely nothing was working, positive thinking, challenging thoughts, because of the motivation was coming from a motivation of avoidance, from a motivation of, I can't handle this. And after he had this experience, although he was a very great scientist, he had a spiritual experience, and his first research paper was called Making Sense of Spirituality, because he wanted to understand what happened. And when he kind of trained other people in these approaches of being present, remember, instead of disconnected, present, instead of being closed, being open emotionally, not just physically, but emotionally to our feelings, and then being actively engaged, he found that it worked well. And there was a whole load of research over 40 years that went into building this model. But that model, you can look at the research side of things. If you're science, that's fantastic. You can look into that. And I love that side of things. So I can look from that side, from that perspective, from the way that language and cognition and the brain works and how this works for that reason. But also you can do it in a very simple way, which was the body posture. One of them was closed, not present, and not engaged with the world, and one was open, present, and actively engaged. And so that is the model of ACT, to be present, open, and actively engaged. And it doesn't just tell you to do that, but it gives you a whole range of different activities and exercises that take anything from a few seconds to longer to be able to do them. And so I'm going to be talking you through that model first of all, and then I'm going to be guiding you in a mindful exercise that is almost like a walk through it from a meditative perspective. So the first thing I said is about instead of not being present to your challenge. And I guess that we're all on this summit because of either you feel there's a lot of anxiety in your system, or one of your friends or family or clients or colleagues are having to meet anxiety. So the first step in the ACT, well, it doesn't have to be the first one, but the first one that I'll talk about is about being present rather than not being present. Now, the element of being present, the idea in ACT is about being flexibly present. So can you be present to what's there? And that includes the anxiety. So if there's a feeling, if there's a sensation in your body of anxiety, then ACT, mindfulness is saying, let's become aware of it. Let's notice where it is in the body. Let's notice it with a sense of flexibility, so you can move your attention there or somewhere else. Let's notice it with a sense of curiosity, like, oh, this is interesting. Dear anxiety has come to visit me. I wonder what I can learn from this. So that sense of being present. Now, the second thing I said, well, in fact, the first thing I said that Stephen Hayes had was this spiritual experience. And at first people thought, it's quite rare for people to have this sense of stepping out from themselves and observing, maybe it's, one person in a million or something it happens to. But when they started asking more and more people, it turns out it's quite common. In fact, a lot of people, if not most people, have had that experience once in their lifetime, or if not more, whereas that sense of stepping out from themselves, that sense of being connected with everything, the sense of being an observer of your thoughts and emotions. So not being entangled in your thoughts, but being separate from them and watching them, seeing things from a different perspective. And this element it could be called perspective taking. It could be called your transcendent self, or it could be called your observing self. But actually, you can't even give it a name because it doesn't have a form. It's about tuning into that part of you that is completely free of whatever you're experiencing, which at the moment, I guess, is anxiety. So the very fact that you can feel a sensation of anxiety, whether it's the tingling in your stomach or a tightening in your chest, or whatever it is, because you can feel it, there's a part of you that is not it, because it's observing it. Let's say if that's the anxiety, there has to be something that's separate from you that's able to see it. If you are not separate from it, you wouldn't be able to see that it's there. So what we're encouraging in this present approach is that, okay, that's the anxiety and this is me here. I'm observing it. I can watch it from different places. I can relate to it in a different way. There's a space between me and the anxiety, and that space is that relationship. That's what I can change. I can change the way I see it or look at it. So that's tuning into your transcendent self, and that's found to have a great sense of flexibility. And then you start to notice that this initial anxiety, which I thought was overwhelming and I couldn't handle, actually changes. And sometimes it goes away and sometimes it comes, and actually it doesn't impact me, because that's me. I should have some puppets here, shouldn't I? That's me, and that's the anxiety. And the anxiety can be big, or it could be small, or it could be something else. It can change to different things, but there's me that as the observer that's separate from it. And as the observer of the witness, there's a wonderful sense of freedom there. So that's the present element. So that's from being unpresent, from being caught up and mindless to being present. The second big chunk is about being open. So we had this posture where it was closed and compared to open. And the approach in ACT is to be, and in mindful approaches, is to be accepting of your thoughts and emotions and your situation, because of that's already here. And also being able to, again, they call it diffuse, or being unhooked from your thoughts. I'll teach you about how to do that. But acceptance, I'm sure many of you have heard about the importance of acceptance and find it really, really hard. In fact, the root meaning of acceptance is about receiving. It's almost like receiving a gift. So that's really hard. Imagine if you're feeling overwhelmed with anxiety and someone says, hey, this is a gift. You should receive it and welcome it. But maybe that is what ultimately needs to happen. We need to learn to receive what comes along more as a gift rather than avoiding it. The research finds that the more we avoid or go into a mode of mind they call experiential avoidance, avoiding difficult thoughts and emotions by anything from, forcing positive thoughts to certain techniques, even meditation to as a form of avoidance, then it's not really going to be successful. But if you're practicing relaxation or mindfulness or whatever, or going for a walk, and you're opening up that bodily posture and opening up emotionally to the feelings that you're feeling, that is far more healthy, generally speaking, and it leads to the emotion coming and going. One nice analogy is to imagine it's like a dragon or a monster. One of our volunteers at the Museum of Happiness, Jane Jackson, she talks about the monsters under your bed, and you can think of these difficult feelings or emotions as like monsters. And so what we're encouraging with acceptance is that if you give it a character, like say it's like a monster, and you decide to, rather than push it away or fight with it, you welcome it. So you can visualize that this little monster is coming along and it's going to have a cup of tea or coffee or drink with you. And you're just going to sit down with this monster, your inner anxiety, and have a little chat with it. So rather than running away from it all your life, you just say, okay, so anxiety monster, we meet again. Sorry, I've been running away from you for quite a while, but watch this Managing Anxiety Summit thing, and apparently the guy says that we should talk. So I'd like to welcome you, and let's have some tea together. And I'm here for you. What would you like to say to me? What brings you here? I'm here to listen. I'm going to bring a sense of kindness and compassion rather than fighting with you so much. And so you can converse in this way internally in your mind and have that little communication. And maybe your anxiety says, oh, thank you so much for listening to me. I've been trying to get your attention for a while. I just wanted to say that I'm quite scared at the moment, and I feel much better now that you're with me and you're listening to me. Thank you. Maybe we can be friends. And so you start changing that relationship. You start cultivating a relationship which is more open, more positive, and at the same time there's a space as well. There's you and the anxiety. Yeah. So there's a sense of embracing it and allowing it and letting it be. Just like a friend going through a difficulty or a challenge, you hopefully would be kind to them, caring to them, listen to them, help them out. So it's the same idea with this. So that's about being open and stepping back from thoughts. I've talked about that a bit more. And the final one is that when your body posture is like this, or when you're closing down to your challenges, you can't really take any action, can you? You know, you're looking down, you're not present, you're not open, and you're not engaged with the world. But with the second posture, your body's open, your senses are open to the world, and you're engaged with this challenge. So you're able to take action. But not just any old action. Actors found that the action you take works well if it's meaningful action. And this is what the whole aim of a ACT or mindful approach is. It's about cultivating a meaningful life, a fulfilling life. And so when you meet your challenge, the idea is to meet that challenge by taking your values and being the kind of person you want to be, acting in the kind of way that you want to act, and taking action based on that. So your values, you need to take some time to reflect on what your values are. Some of you may know, some of you may not be so sure. Some of you have to recognize that our values change from time to time. They're relatively constant and they usually don't change too much. But overall, there is that sense of something within you that's calling you to be the kind of person you want to be. So for example, one of my values is creativity. So I like to do things a little bit differently. I like to do things where I'm creating something new like this. I feel this summit, for example, active creativity. This talk that I'm giving you, I didn't make lots of notes or anything. I'm kind of being creative in the way that I'm sharing it. And when I'm being creative, I feel more alive. I really enjoy it. And I think the case may be for many of you. So being creative may be a value for you. And so the idea is that when you meet a challenge, if creativity is your value, you start thinking, how can I creatively solve this problem? How can I do it in a different way? For some of you, your value may be courage, being courageous. And so the idea would be to start thinking, how can I be courageous today? What courageous act can I do? How can I embody courage in this webinar that I'm in right now, or in the Facebook group I'm in, or the person down the road who doesn't have easy access to food, or whatever it is for you. Okay, so it may be courage, it may be kindness. And we're seeing a lot of kindness right now. And people are starting to feel alive in the kindness that they're doing because that is one of their values and they're living their values. And so they're thinking about small acts of kindness, big acts of kindness, whatever it may be for you. But any tiny action, it's about something that you can do every day and in every moment with values. It's not a goal, it's a value. It gives you a direction. It's like a compass pointing in a certain direction. So what are your values? One unique way of coming up with your values is to reflect on where you hurt. Because one of the beautiful quotes of ACT is, we hurt where we care. And there's a lot of hurt at the moment. There's a lot of pain at the moment. And sometimes you may see that in a negative way. But actually that pain or that hurt is coming out of care. Because people are caring that their hurt is arising. And so if you're hurting in some way, if there's something that's hurting you right now, it shows you that you care about something. So what is it that you care about? So if there's a lot of disconnection in the world and you're feeling disconnected, there's a hurt in that disconnection, that means you care a lot about connection. That means connection is one of your values. And so an ACT approach would be encouraging you, how can you take a small action today to connect a little bit more? And when you do that, it's going to hurt as well. And anxiety is going to come up because it's something that's important to you. If you didn't care about it, I don't care about connection, it's not going to be hard. It's not going to be a challenge for you. And it's not going to be meaningful. But we hurt where we care, and we care where we hurt. So think about what areas in your life are causing hurt for you now or in the past that have caused you hurt. And say if you can flip it, because of where you're hurting will give you an idea of what your values are. Another way of thinking about your values is to think about, who do you really respect? Who do you really look up to? Okay, so let's say, like, one person from me is the Dalai Lama, for example. So I really look up to the Dalai Lama. So what is it about him that I really look up to? So one of the things that makes me smile right away is his laugh. I mean, his laugh is just making me laugh right now. So that sense of laughter and playfulness, being playful in his work and in the way he shares things, is something that I really value. And so that's one of my values, being playful. Another thing is incredibly kind. Kindness is really important to him. He says, kindness is my religion. And I think that's something that's so wonderful and noble. And so that is one of my values too. Another one is the wisdom that he shares, the generosity with which he shares. So start thinking about who's it that you really look up to. It doesn't have to be someone, like some great spiritual leader. It could be, your parents, or it could be your aunt or uncle or a grandparent, or it could be someone down the street or a person who works in the station. Amazingly, we have wonderful examples of ordinary people being extraordinary right now in their simple acts that they're doing. And some of those people may be really people that you really look up to. And so what is it about them that you really like? And that will give you some clues about your values. So values are things that you embody. It's the way you do things. It's the kind of person that you want to be and the kind of actions you do. So it's not a goal that you can reach. So you can't say, my value is running 5 kilometers in half an hour or something, because it's a specific goal that you can get to. But being fit could be a value, or being healthy can be a value, because you can keep doing it your whole life. You never reach there. So it's that classic quote, the journey is more important than the destination. So the idea is to keep enjoying the journey by embracing, having a values-based approach to life. But the final part of ACT is to actually take action. Yeah, it's called ACT. ACT stands for Acceptance and Commitment Training. So it is about taking action too, and I like it for that reason. All these mindful courses are wonderful, and I think they may be missing the element about the importance of meaningful action. And I like that about ACT, in that it starts getting you to think, what is it that I really care about? What are my values, and what actions can I take today in line with that, so I can make a difference in the world? I can do my bit. And as I said, you'll find that the actions that you need to take today, or this week, month, year, the ones that are meaningful will not be easy ones, because if they're easy, you don't care about them. So you'll care about them, they'll be difficult, and they will feel wonderful when you do them, I feel. But the feeling wonderful and the feeling happy and trying to feel a certain way is certainly not the goal in ACT. One of the few therapies and approaches where the goal is not a certain feeling or getting rid of something. It's about cultivating a rich, full, fun, and meaningful life. And that is done by embracing your values and taking action, and using the mindfulness and the presence and the transcendent self to step back from those difficult thoughts and emotions, but at the same time having that sense of respect for them, like I said with that monster example. Great. So a few things have been said in the chat, so I'm just going to if there's any questions. So Alexandra says, Alicia Goldstein says something like having a powerful posture is part of the Tibetan Buddhist practice. So that's interesting. And just a few other comments and stuff. Great. Okay, so I'm going to be guiding you in a little mindful exercise now. It's going to take, I reckon it's going to take us about 10 minutes to 15 minutes. I'm going to guide you through the whole ACT approach, but in a meditative way. So let's have a go at that. And then let's deal with the questions and things a little bit later on after that. So get yourselves into a nice cozy posture. But let's sit in a posture that embodies a sense of dignity and wakefulness in a kind and caring kind of way too. Because we want to embody that sense of being open and present, engaged. So mindfulness doesn't have to be done with your eyes closed. Let's start by remembering we can practice with our eyes open and just noticing the colors around you. And if you have some kind of visual impairment and you can't see, then listen to the sounds around you. But just bring that sense of curiosity. Notice all the various different shades and colors, and see if you can find 3 things that you didn't notice about the room. It could be a tiny shadow, a different ray of light. There's a crack in the corner of my room that I didn't realize. Wonderful. Notice any vivid colors, any subtle colors. And then when you're ready to do so, allowing your eyes to gently close if they're open. Or you can just cast your eyes downwards for this exercise. And as you turn your attention from the busy outer world into the inner world of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations, taking a few deep breaths if you find that helpful. Good. And so for the first part of this exercise, and there'll be 6 steps to this exercise. For the first step, I'd like you to imagine that you've been carrying 2 heavy bags, one bag in your left hand and one in your right hand. And the bag in your left hand represents your past and the bag in the right, your future. And you've been carrying these bags around actually your whole life. They've been getting heavier and heavier, perhaps even more heavier recently. And just get a sense of feeling that strain of those 2 bags that you may have been carrying unconsciously your whole life. A bag of weight of the past in one hand, a bag of weight of the future in the other hand. And so we're going to begin by cultivating a present moment awareness by lowering that bag of the past with all your regrets, all your past memories, good and bad. Just for this exercise, imagine lowering the bag of the past. Imagine opening your hand and letting go of the past. Just for now. Feel that weight coming off your arm. And then you've got this heavy bag of the future, all your worries, concerns, and anxieties. But we're not in the future, we're just in the here and now. So you can just, for now anyway, lower that heavy bag. You don't need to carry it all the time. So put that bag down and imagine opening up your hand. And so you have released both the past and the future. And so you're in the here and now, the present moment. And there's some things about you that are always present, and one of them is your body. So just begin by noticing the sensations in the top of your head and your face. Noticing the expression on your face. You can try frowning, try smiling. And then scanning your attention without judging yourself. It's just about being curious. Mindfulness is about noticing. We're not trying to even relax. We're just trying to notice. That's the whole purpose of this. So noticing the sensations in your shoulders. If they do relax, great. If they don't, it doesn't really matter. Moving your attention down your arms, into your hands and fingers. And then going back up your arms into your chest and your upper back. Down into your belly and your lower back. And then further down towards your pelvis. And then down into your legs, the upper part of your legs, the lower part of your legs, your ankles, your feet. And now just being flexible in your attention, feeling your whole body as you're sitting here. I'd like you to imagine that you're looking at the clouds in the sky. And the clouds are coming and going. I want you to imagine that you can place your thoughts on the clouds. So a cloud comes along. Whatever thought pops in your head, just pop it onto the cloud. You don't need to resist your thoughts at all. You can almost welcome them if you want, but you just pop them on the clouds and let them come and go. So you're starting to be open to your thoughts rather than being closed to them. You're not fighting with them. You're almost smiling at them. So see if you can make space, inner space, for whatever thoughts that want to come along, because they can just go on those clouds. They are not you. They do not touch you. What you resist persists, but what you accept transforms. So accepting that the thoughts will arise and let them come and go. No matter how many clouds come into the sky is untouched. In the same way, it doesn't matter whatever thoughts pop into your head. And even your feelings, you can even imagine your feelings coming up and being placed on the clouds, letting them be. But you're not touched by them either. You are the sky. You're the transcendent self, the observing self, that part of you that can watch in a flexible way everything that's going on. Good. And now you can tune into your body and noticing what feelings are coming up in your physical body. Where do you feel the sensations in your body? What feelings are arising for you right now? Are there any inner monsters there that you need to welcome, meet, connect with? They may be pleasant or positive emotions. They are also welcome. Whatever is there, see if you can notice it. Where is it in your body? What's the shape, the color, the texture of your feeling right now? Maybe even seeing if you can fully accept it, allow it to just be there, knowing that it can't hurt you in one sense because you're the observer. This is just a feeling that's coming and going. It's an emotion. It's in motion. And if you could have a conversation with this inner sensation or emotion, or imagine having a cup of tea or coffee with it, what would you say? How would you communicate? If it happens to be an anxiety, then say, welcome. What brings you here? And if at any time you do find it too difficult or challenging, remember you can always open your eyes, you can feel your feet on the floor. just doing what feels right for you. But having this attitude of being open and present and engaged. Remember, like the body posture we talked about at the beginning, having that open, courageous approach to your inner experiences can be very helpful. See if it works for you. Remembering our aim is not to get rid of this inner monster, it's to get to know it, to change our relationship from avoidance to approach, from running away to accepting, from denying to letting it be, and perhaps even learning from it. Maybe this is your greatest teacher. Because we hurt where we care, showing you what you care about, what's important to you, showing you your values. And so as we continue to reflect in the next part of this exercise, we talked a little bit about values and what's important for you. So imagining yourself a few years on from now, maybe 2 or 3 years on from now, a version of yourself that's extremely wise and kind, that inner part of yourself that embraces that inner wisdom and compassion. What advice would that wise, compassionate person, that is yourself, give to you as you meet this challenge right now? What does she or he think are your values? What are important for you? How would she or he want you to behave or act? What actions would they want you to take or not take? What would they want you to do to be the kind of person you want to be? Not for anyone else, but just for yourself, to show up in the world in a way that you are proud of. Nice and slowly and compassionately, step by step. So you can communicate with your inner wisdom and compassion in that way, or your observing self, your transcendent self. Good. And so if you want to continue having that reflection or conversation, feel free to do so. We can always listen back to this again. But just see if there's any specific actions that you do want to take. And so as you gradually come out of this exercise, noticing your body on the chair, or your feet on the floor or on the bed or wherever you are, just allowing yourself to come back to your surroundings, coming back to the room, noticing the colors, giving your body and a little stretch. Wonderful. So that was a little movement through the whole kind of ACT model. We don't usually do so many steps there, but that was a journey through act and compassion and acceptance and allowing, and also reflecting a little bit on the value side of things. But I'd like to give you a little exercise to do now. So take a piece of paper or back of an envelope or something, and I'm just going to time you for 1 minute, and I want you to just write down for 1 minute whatever comes to your mind about that exercise. Maybe there was nothing. If you're not sure what to write, then you can just keep writing. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. Nothing's coming to mind, but you just keep writing. Okay, it's going to be about 60 seconds. So get yourselves a bit of pen and paper, and if you don't have to do this, obviously, but it could be a fun exercise to do. It's going to be, let's make it 90 seconds. So once you find a bit of paper and pen, I want you to just write down a stream of consciousness about how that experience was for you and what insights you got. Ready, steady, go. Just keep writing. Even if you've got nothing to write, just write, I've got nothing to write. Okay, if you could just finish off the sentence that you're writing. And what I'd like you to do is later on, go back to this exercise and time yourself for another minute or two, and just read over what you've written and just underline any key points or any key insights or key actions that come out from there. And that could be a really nice way to think about what actions that you want to take next that are meaningful for you in this time to meet this challenge in a way that's open, active, and present and engaged. Good. Okay, so we've just got a couple of minutes before we get into the next session, which is going to be about money, which I'm really excited about. Really nice teacher, very experienced, who'll be teaching us about that. But I'm happy to answer a few questions that may have come through. Helen said, can I have a written copy of the relaxation exercise? It's beautiful. Yeah, I just made it up in the moment, but if anybody wants to type it out, then please share it with us and we'll share it with the group. That would be wonderful. If anyone wants to volunteer to do that, then that's great. We can all work together. Okay, so one question that's come up. What if the things you care most about are not really in line with your values? So the idea about values are things that we do care about. It's kind of like the definition of a value. So value, like if something is hurting me that I don't have, or something's happening which is hurting me, the flip side of that is going to be my value. So it gives you a bit of an idea or a clue. But if you feel a little bit stuck about that and you just think, no, this doesn't feel like it is my value, then that's fine. You can use a different approach. You could use that approach about, who do you look up to? Or you could even do value exercises where you look at different words and you see which word really resonates with you. And you can experiment with it. You can say, okay, let's take the value of friendship. Okay, I think being friendly is one of my values. And so I'm just going to practice doing actions in line with being friendly for a week or two, and let's see how that goes. And that could be a good way of testing it out. So thank you for that question. So Vipan said, "What you really, when you're really in your head, does this work as effectively, or any perhaps in the moment things you'd recommend? However, what if the negative thoughts?" So yeah, different exercises work for different people. So that was quite a long exercise. So if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed or you're feeling overly challenged right now, maybe that exercise was too long, and maybe a short one would be better. But about the negative and the positive thoughts, remember, all mindful and meditative and ACT approaches, rather than classifying things as positive or negative, they like to see them all as just thoughts. Thoughts are just thoughts. They're words coming in your head, they're pictures coming up, and they're not necessarily harmful in themselves. It's our relationship. It's when we get, that's the thought and that's you, and it's just getting hooked onto it. That's the problem. And so what these techniques do is that sense of release and letting go. And when we start to let go and allow and watch them to be, then there's a little bit of space there. It's a nice question. You'll get the recordings in your email inbox on Monday. It's one of the questions. Anything else? Alexandros asks, what about people who seem to have the value of control or dominance over others? Or are those false values that hide something else like fear or pain? Yeah, I think you've answered your question there. That's what I think. If someone's trying to control too much, and we all try to control perhaps a bit more than we need to, then there's some fear there, and there's a sense, you're looking for a sense of certainty, or you're looking for a sense of, or perhaps the ego is a little bit too strong there, out of misunderstanding. So yeah, there's some suggestions that come to mind. Often values naturally tend to be quite positive, actually, and even when they've done these values exercises with people who've done, terrible crimes and prisoners and stuff, when they really go deeply and start to tune into what are their true values that they really care about, they tend to have these, cultivating these what we see as positive values. Tim says, would a 3-minute breathing space be a good way of helping you to realize your values? Yeah, so thanks for that question, Tim. Yeah, a breathing space is like a 3-minute mindfulness meditation exercise, and it's a great way to kind of tune in and be present, come into the moment. Not sure if it's directly a values exercise, but it could be turned into that. Sure. The very fact that you want to do a breathing space exercise or a mindful exercise may show that being present or being mindful is one of your values, most likely. Good. Okay, some more people asking about the recording. Yeah, you'll get the recording. If you've signed up, then you'll get it in your email. So don't worry about that. Great. Let me see if there's any other questions. No? Okay. Let's take a little break for a few minutes before our next speaker arrives. So take a few minutes and come back at 10 o'clock and we'll start then. Okay. Okay, so let's put it back on here. Be back in a few minutes.